Hi, it's Dalen from Standalone. We have Courtney and Rose with us today. It's been a while since we have done a podcast. We've been pretty busy this year. A lot of updates. A lot of you guys have kind of stayed with us on Facebook about what we've been doing and things like that. But today, first off, we're going to introduce Rose. And she is an intern turned employee, and she fits in just fine with me and Courtney. First off, Rose, tell us what your favorite thing about being a dog trainer is.
So I have to say my favorite thing about being a dog trainer that I've found so far is just the fact that I love working with dogs so much that even when I get off work and I see my dog or somebody else's dog, I'm still just as excited to see the dog. You know, like other people when they have, like, if they're working, like, numbers all day and then they go home and see, like, numbers on a screen, they're like, oh my god, no. And then I'm like, oh my god, dog out! Yeah. And I feel like I'm never, like, working, really. So that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, Courtney and I have talked about that before, of we don't feel like this is a job, it's just something we get to do. And then that's where it turns your mind of, this is my job, but it's a great job for me because I love dogs. The people we still have to get accustomed to, but yeah. Anyway, okay, and the number one question that I see a lot of social media people do is, what is your favorite dog breed? If you could have any dog, no matter what would it be and why?
So my answer is pretty stinking basic. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even care. I love a good Labrador.
Oh, okay.
I love labs so much. They're so dumb and they're so happy and they're just lovely. You know, they're easy to train. They want to make you happy.
Right.
I love having them around. They make your life better.
If you could choose which one, you want the chocolate one, a black one, or a golden one?
I like blonde labs most likely. Just because I'm biased because of my own dog at this point. I didn't have a preference until my dog came into the picture. But black labs are also really cute. Yeah.
What about silver labs?
Absolutely. Don't get me started. That is not what we're doing this podcast on today. We will do that another day.
Anyway. Okay, so we are going to be talking today about a topic that Courtney and I have talked about while he was at dog training school. But since then, he's gotten, he finished his schooling. And we've worked with a few people with service dogs. So now we're going to do a little bit more of experience and knowledge. So according to the ADA website, what is technically a legal service dog?
So I'm going to give this to you in the CHV, the Courtney Harris version.
Okay.
It's not going to be verbatim. Basically, a service dog is a dog that provides at minimum 2 tasks to help further the person with a disability.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
So what are just a couple of things, like tasks that you
so we have a service dog that we're training now to do some PTSD work. And there are not a lot of crazy things. The person that's getting the dog trained, his dog kind of searches his house to kind of, help ease him a little bit. She's a great companion as well. And he's just killing it as a dog owner / handler / person in that realm.
He's also helping just at like mobility.
Yes, mobility is another
diabetes
one.
and alert, right?
Yeah, some diabetic alert stuff. And we've got a couple that were in the pipeline of doing some mobility stuff. That's a huge one that we see around here. Of just a good thick dog helping somebody stay upright.
Thick dog, Okay. If you're around either one of us for any amount of time out in public or anything like that, we see people use service dogs, and I say that loosely. And Rose is going to talk about that in a minute, but that is something that we are very passionate about, is educating people what an actual service dog looks like, because we are able to tell a fraud from a real, like, super fast. So Rose, given your experience with dog training school and what Courtney has taught you with so far this past year, what is a fake service dog?
So I would have to say the most distinct thing that stands out to me, maybe not to everybody walking through the store, but to me it's just their behavior. That's the biggest thing. Any dog that has any kind of reactivity, barking at people, getting uncomfortable, getting shy. Any dog that is too social, going up to people, being too friendly. That's a big thing. Listening to commands is a huge thing as well. If you see somebody and they're having to ask their dog multiple times to do something, or having to, get its attention back to them, that's a big kind of red flag. So that's a big thing, is the behavior, and that stands out to like me and Courtney and you, for example. But some other things that people think kind of go into it, things like the service dog vests. That does not constitute a service dog, not at all. Being able to take them anywhere does not constitute a service dog either. But yeah, there's a whole...
So this isn't on our notes, but if you were to recommend dog breeds for a person for common service dog, what would you suggest? Either one of you.
The ones you see the most are going to be your working breed dogs. You're going to have your doodles, just because if they're bred properly, they're going to be hypoallergenic, which is huge for, we see that a lot. People have weaker immune systems, and they, like you sneeze at cats. And then you see a lot of labs and goldens as well.
Yeah, I would say it really depends on your lifestyle. So dogs like Border Collies and Aussies can be really great, but they require a lot of exercise. They require a certain lifestyle.
That's not my first go-to job for them when I think about that breed at all.
You're not going to have like a person that has a mobility issue that can't exercise a dog with a dog like that. But they're very smart and they can do really well at that job. But if you have, more of a calmer lifestyle, you're obviously going to want to go with your labs, your poodles, your doodles, your goldens. Goldens are also really, really nice to have around.
Yeah, you want a working dog, but a working dog that has, I don't want to say low stamina, because you want them to be able to perform the task, but you don't want a crackhead. You don't want a Malinois hanging off the ceiling fan.
The way that I describe like Link or Roddy, they have to be like a lion. They have the energy and the power to do what they need to do, but they can't do it for long periods of time. They can probably go out and walk around the grocery store with you and then go home. But okay, so when people usually come to us for a service dog, they most likely have Googled service dog training in the area. And something that when we started our business, and once after he got back from dog training school, we had to really establish what we wanted our service dog service to look like. So when they come to us, what is the process for obtaining a service dog?
So the thing is I'm going to need to make sure, without overstepping bounds, I want to make sure that you actually need a service dog. If you just get a little anxious and all that stuff, life's tough. Wear a helmet, as Candace Owens once famously said. Sometimes you're just gonna have to pull up your big boy pants and suck it up and drive on. Not every little thing constitutes a service dog.
Okay, so they contact us, they call us, hey, I want a service dog. What's their first
The first thing we need is an application. That way we can kind of dig in and see, hey, this is, our application process is not a small one. I want, and it's that way for a reason. Not just anybody. If I can tell right away, if you don't give me the application, you're not going to go through the whole process. And then from the application process, we have an interview, and one of many. The interview is not going to be up at our building. I want to be in your house. I want to see how you live. I want to see the environment that's going to be conducive for the animal. And it sucks to say it, but we don't put our name on crap. And that animal is more important to me than that person. And here's why I say that. I can't have a dog go to somebody who gets angry or gets startled easily and will hurt the animal. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. And then from there, we can kind of start seeing, hey, if you pass the application process, if you pass the initial interview and all that stuff, we can go further. Our process is not a quick one. And it's strategically like that. Training a service dog is not a snap of the finger and it's done. It's a lengthy process because I need to make sure that this dog is 110% squared away.
Because we can go all the way up to, like you did at school, that you've seen where they would get all the way to the house ready to drop the dog off, and they're like, this isn't going to work.
Yep.
And so just know that if you go to somebody and they say, I can train your service dog in like 6 months, you should know that's a red flag. That's just not something, it takes 6 months to really even just get the process, because there are just some other like paperwork stuff that we need. And if you can't do that and you see that you need a doctor's note proving that you have this disability, like you mentioned, if you don't even do that, we're not even going to consider you and reach out to make sure that that even happens to go further.
And I have one person that I'm working on getting a mobility dog for, and it's been 3 months since we started the process, and I haven't even found the right dog yet. And it's because I'm not just gonna have any old stinking dog.
Right.
I want good health on the animal. I want a drive that I can work with. I don't want aggression or fear or anything like that to overstep.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about what disqualifies a dog, because there is a big question too about people with service dogs, and we'll talk about
We'll get
that.
into that. Yeah.
So Rose, the question for you is, a lot of people also either don't know, so they're unaware of what they don't know, or they do know and they don't care. But and what Courtney kind of talked about in the beginning of what an emotional support animal is. And so can you, in your words as a master dog trainer, give us a clear definition of what a service dog is and what an ESA is, and then what kind of makes each one different to where an ESA is not really a service dog?
So as Courtney said in the beginning, a service dog is a medical tool that performs tasks to help somebody with a disability. It's not just a pet.
Right.
An ESA is, in all practical terms, a pet. Usually you can kind of lump therapy dogs and ESAs into the same general category and just call them really well-trained dogs that have a certain personality that's loving, that that kind of thing. It's just, they just are. Yeah. And any dog can be an ESA, and anybody with a doctor's note or can get an ESA certified. Right. And that's kind of the biggest difference, I would say, is that, well, first of all, you don't have to certify a service dog. And I would even go as far, you mentioned what they don't know and kind of, is it their fault? And it's honestly, at the end of the day, I'm more angry with the people online who have those register your dog as a service dog for $50, right? And they're spreading this misinformation about all of this. And everybody wants to be able to bring their dog to the airport. Everybody wants to be able to bring their dog into Walmart and grocery stores and stuff like that. But what that does is it takes away from the urgency that people have for using service dogs in the first place. They are generally life-saving tools. And ESAs aren't going to do that.
Right, no.
And it takes a lot more work to create a service dog than it does to create an ESA.
Right, yeah. Because you can have a really well-trained dog to be your ESA, but at the end of the day, if you're having a seizure or something, that dog's not going to know what to do. But if you get a dog that is trained for your seizures and just know about that, then that's the clear difference. If hypothetically Link was ever an ESA, which he would be really great at, if I was having a medical emergency, he'd probably just lick my face or go lay down. I mean, there's just no...
Just like lay on top of
me.
Just be like, hello.
Hello.
Are you anxious?
Let me help you.
That's what Link does.
And really,
Headbutt.
sorry. No, literally just butt his way in. Here, let me help. You're dying, but
He reminds me of those, the dinosaurs with the big old boulders on their head?
Oh, yeah.
They have like the little arms and they just go, wow!
Yeah.
That's what Link reminds me of.
That is 100% accurate.
Oh, gosh. So, yeah, there is a very big difference. An ESA they're great. We're not undermining them at all. They are really great. And we can help with that. But if you come to us with a service dog inquiry and what you list is just basically an ESA, we're gonna be honest with you, and we're gonna be like, okay, do we want to pry more to see if they can kind of see like, hey, they don't really want a service dog, they want to just take their pet everywhere because they get anxious. And please hear us, we are not going against anybody with medical issues. We all have them. And we are also, like I said, Rose fits in very well with us. But we all understand the difference between a service dog and an emotional support animal. And we want people to know that as well. So if you come to us wanting a service dog, please, hear this and then ask a lot of questions if you need to, but we will not hesitate to deny you
Yep.
if you don't really have a medical emergent or a medical issue that you can benefit from a service dog. So
On
Yes.
that note, I also do want to say, and I feel like I can talk more about this later on in the podcast, but a big element that I see when it comes to service dogs and just random people, when they want to pull that's not a service dog, you don't look like you have a disability.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah.
And you don't always know. And
Yeah.
that's why the 2 questions that you are allowed to ask a person with a service dog is it a service dog and what tasks does it
Yep.
perform?
Yep.
And
Okay, well, I'm
Okay.
gone.
Okay, so that is something that people, especially employers, don't really, I don't know if they know to ask this stuff or anything like that. And that's something that we would love to
A
come.
lot of them don't, because the dog that we have up in Nebraska right now, the one I was bragging on, he texts me maybe once a week of, hey, these people are morons. You know,
Yeah.
he has been, like, dogs have approached him that were service dogs that have been aggressive towards Freya.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, if I can get you in, will you please? I would absolutely love to come educate people.
Yeah.
If you are a business owner and you don't know this stuff, contact us
Right.
for free. I will come out and I will teach you and give you all the information that you possibly could use on.
And how to deal with it, because
Yeah.
there are ways of legally doing it to where they can't come back to you. I think we had somebody reach out before of
Yeah.
he just wanted to know what the rules were, because people were bringing all these crazy animals in saying they were service dogs, and he came in to just kind of let him know the information. We gave him a packet from the ADA. I typed up some stuff for him, and it's just a simple resource to know your rights as an employer of that.
And as a business owner, if you're watching this podcast, so you own a small business and you deal with a lot of people coming in with service dogs that are not service dogs, there are definitely certain things that you can, go off of to determine whether
Yeah.
or not you can just straight up kick them out of your store.
Right.
And a big thing is, are they impeding the business process, essentially? Are they barking, raising heck,
Yeah.
pooping,
Peeing, yeah.
peeing in the premises, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff? And at that point, you can ask them to leave.
Yeah.
So totally
And
fine with that.
just because you have a service dog, it doesn't entitle your dog to be able to go back and start making spaghetti at the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't give you the right to, take over, and that's not fair to the business establishment. And don't be one of these idiots that, oh, I'm going to cancel you because you hurt my feeling. No, that's stupid. Like, there are rules, and if you are a jerk, you're a fat person on a mobility scooter and you have a poodle, or not a poodle, a freaking chihuahua. Like, sorry, no, I'm gonna try to get you kicked out, because no, your chihuahua is not helping 600-pound life walk around as a mobility dog.
Yeah.
Ain't happening.
Ooh, in that same respect, another topic to bring up. When it comes to a completed service dog versus a service dog in training.
Mhm.
So obviously, when you're training a service dog, you have to be able to take it to the same places that it would be going to
Yeah.
as a fully trained service dog. So that's why service dogs in training are afforded the exact same rights as a fully trained service dog. So there is also that kind of in-between area where ideally you'll see somebody with an in-training type of like sticker or leash wrap on the dog. That way you can tell. And that's also a good sign that people know what they're doing, is having that, because it's not required to have any
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
messages on them. But a person that's training a service dog is going to go ahead, they're not going to want to deal with that anyway.
Yeah.
So they're going to go ahead and invest in that equipment
Yeah.
to let you know that, hey, this is the
'Cause
situation.
In some part of people's minds, when they see service dog anything and they have kids, they automatically know, don't touch that dog.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that is why you legally don't have to have anything like
Yeah,
that. You
legally,
legally
no.
don't. And if somebody says that you do, just ignore them. You're wrong. Yeah.
Go
But
now.
it is
Yeah.
also a very important thing. Like when we had the service dog down here for us for 3 weeks, that she's still in training, but she's pretty much being a rock star. She's pretty much cleared of that. I went ahead and bought some with my leash for her when I went out with her, because I didn't want people touching the dog. Like the dog, if you always, as the person that has a service dog, has the right to let people touch your dog. But if you know you're in an anxious situation and that dog helps keep people away, you can say no, and if they get mad, that's fine. They can get mad, but that dog's not there for entertainment purposes. So, but yeah, bottom line is if they've got that on, I know, like, our kids obviously know, hey, don't touch any person's dog, but not everybody does. And kids come up, you have the right to be like, please don't pet my dog. And that's something, and when you train with us, we'll give you all those kind of tools of how to deal with that, because people will. And it's very disrespectful anyway, even if it's not a service dog. But that's another topic. Okay.
And hold on, before we go to the next, and if you ever see us out in public with a dog, like
Any
if
type dog.
we're out in public by ourselves, cool, come up and talk to us. If we're out with a dog, we are doing our job. Please let us do our job. I'm not saying don't say hi. We'll absolutely love to say hi. But my goal is to get that dog properly socialized. So don't come up and, love on the dog. We had freaking, when we took Herbie to PetSmart, some idiot, we were at the register, he was in a good set, he was at the register with me, it was great. Some moron comes up behind us and he's like, and of course Herbie's a lab, so he's going to get up.
Yeah, people.
Oh yeah, so
That was
have some common sense. Not everything is freaking about you.
Yeah.
If you see somebody out, like you're not allowed to ride with the UPS guy for obvious reasons, right? So don't interrupt us doing our job because the world revolves around you.
Well, not just that. You don't know if that dog has any issues. That dog could be, you're trying to work on socialization for you not being scared, and his reaction is to bite. So you're working on that. And Joe comes up and is like, "Oh my gosh!" And then his hand gets bit, and then there's a whole nother problem.
I was at Home Depot and with a German Shepherd, and somebody that was working in the parking lot just came up. Like, I was opening the door, I was getting the collar on her, getting her all set up in the car, and somebody just walks up and just puts his hand in the car, and I was like, and I got Zoe out, I collected my thoughts, and I was like, just so you know, if you see me around here in the future, anybody just in general, don't just go to pet the dogs. We work with behavior modification dogs. We work with aggressive dogs. So you may or may not be very happy with how that turns out. So it's always a smart idea to ask and to communicate and stuff like that, because sometimes we will need to do some human socialization. But as a dog trainer, my general rule of thumb is if somebody comes up to me and asks about my dog and the dog's okay to pet, absolutely, go ahead. But if they don't ask, immediately no, and you don't get to pet my dog ever.
You kind of get a little hip check and you go, Okay, so we've talked about kind of what it is, what a service dog is, what an ESA is, what our process is. So, Courtney, explain to people what is kind of some things that disqualifies not just dogs and people, but both from getting the service dog.
The easiest answer is it depends.
Okay.
If like I said earlier, if you have a lifestyle that's not conducive to the animal, you're going to be disqualified.
Okay, what does that kind of look? What do you mean lifestyle?
We've gone into some houses where we did our daily impression. Oh, honey. And literally, this person wanted a service dog. She had 9 dogs in the house. They would go to the bathroom in the house. It is not conducive for an environment that I want to put my name on a dog and say, oh yeah, I train. No, I'm not doing that.
So are you saying that if this person has a service dog, it's not wise to have another dog, or it's not a no automatically, or is it like a red flag and we'll proceed with caution, so a yellow flag?
Well,
pink flag.
It could be. It definitely could be a yellow flag.
Okay.
And it's all going to be situationally dependent.
Okay.
I can't blanket statement. Oh, you don't have a fenced-in yard with at least a 45,000 square foot house. Sorry.
Yeah.
No. We're not in this to screw people over.
Right.
But we're not going to just pump out service dogs and
because that's a lot. That's also he didn't mention this before, but our process, it takes at least a year. Least a year before you can maybe even start training with the dog for your specific task. Because I know that Courtney and probably Rose as well, is to get a dog, depending on the person, from puppy, do the tests and things like that, and we'll talk about that in a minute, of really figuring out the right dog. But also it could be like the one that we talked about earlier. We're still waiting for the dog, like a dog. Like we haven't found one, and because we don't want to screw somebody over as well with the dog. So, what else? You said the environment kind of plays a factor. What else?
A lot of the, and I'm just gonna go ahead and blanket this statement out here. If you have a dog that you want to get trained as a service dog, it's probably an automatic no.
Okay.
Just because, so I don't know how the military is now because they're all soft and all that stuff. But when I was in the Army, if you wanted to go join Ranger Regiment and become, a high-speed trigger puller and all that stuff, they wouldn't take guys that have been in regular Army for too long.
Okay.
Because they have too many bad habits and they'd rather build it up from scratch instead of having to break you right back down and building you up. It's too
takes
much
longer.
time. Yeah. And chances are you okay, so don't hear this wrong. You probably screwed up as a pet owner.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Right.
Rose has done it.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens.
Right.
We're human, and it's in our nature to screw up.
Right.
We're not perfect. So if you have a dog that you want as a service dog, it's probably going to be a no, automatic.
Yeah.
Maybe one out of every 100.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big thing to consider. A deal breaker for us usually is when people call us and they're like, "Oh, well, my dog has anxiety or my dog has aggression issues, but I want it to be my service dog."
Yeah.
That is immediately a disqualifying factor for me. You can't just do a service dog. Again, has to be built from scratch, right? You have to really customize this dog, and it has to have the right personality and the right timing and all that good jazz. You can't just use a behavior mod dog and turn it into a service dog. And then I don't want a blanket statement this either, but when it comes to like financial situations, so there are obviously going to be situations, and we're not trying to deny service dogs to people that absolutely need them,
Right.
but if you don't have the financial, what's the word I'm looking for?
Backing.
Capabilities, comfort to provide the adequate care for that service dog, then that's immediately no. Just because, again, like Courtney said, the service dog is our number one priority.
Yeah.
And
if
then
you have 12 other dogs in the house and 6 cats.
And another rule of thumb is if you want 2 dogs trained as a service dog, that's ridiculous. I'm not training 2 dogs to be a service dog.
Yeah, there's that's kind of the fine line of, well, what are you gonna do? Like, do you want one for one and one for the other? Yeah, and it would be a unique situation, but yeah, there's definitely more that disqualifies you. If you don't go through the packet, if you comment or call us and wanting that, and we're like, okay, we're gonna send you our application, and it's like 12 pages long, and it's very detailed. And it's very
for a reason.
Yes, and we want to know more about your life on paper before we actually meet you. So if you don't even do the paperwork, you're not gonna put in the work it's gonna take to do the dog.
Yeah.
You're not gonna take out the time of.
The biggest thing, it's a lifestyle change. Having this tool is a lifestyle change.
Yeah. You gotta think like a diabetic has insulin.
Yeah.
And they need insulin to survive. And if you want your service dog to help provide life-saving support, you're not just gonna want a random dog to do that. In a sense, you're going to want a dog that knows you, is bonded with you, has a specific task, and it knows and does well, but you also take care of the dog in the sense of getting the exercise that it needs outside, because your dog's not working all the time, so you still have to give exercise to the dog. You still have to feed the dog, take it to the vet, keep up with the training as well, because that's something that we see a lot of just regular training clients come back and like, they're doing this, and this. Okay, well, how has the training been? Well, we haven't really kept up with it. That's another topic. We will get on with that.
Can I say one thing?
Okay.
So this goes for service dog training, but it also goes for just dog training in general. Dog training is kind of like fitness and working out, right? You have to commit to that. You have to put in the effort to get to where you want to be, and if you let up on that gas pedal, then everything's going to go back to the way it was. You have to consistently have that discipline, and you have to have that lifestyle to maintain that kind of training for your dog. It's not something that you can just do for a week and then forget about it.
Right.
You have to eat right, you have to exercise, and you have to do that with the dog as well. You have to control all of the lifestyle points, and it's a commitment, and it's not a fix and done. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that.
And to piggyback off that, one of my favorite movies is Inglourious Bastards, and one of his famous lines in the movie is he's carving a swastika in a Nazi's head because he does. It's a great movie. Go watch it. It's a
just
great
wasn't-
movie.
I wasn't
But-
ready. You know?
but-
I wasn't ready.
He wants to make sure that everybody knows that they were Nazis, so he carves a Nazi symbol into their forehead.
Okay.
But he's like the last one that he did. He's like, oh, that might be your best one. And he's like, you know how you get to Carnegie Hall, don't you? Practice. And it's the same thing. Is you have to practice to perfect your craft.
Yeah, and like sports and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
do you think that professional NBA players are just like getting out there once a
Yeah,
week?
well, I mean, NBA players
Maybe.
are 10 wise.
Okay, well, any successful
Like,
athlete.
let's talk real sports like football.
Okay,
Hockey,
anyway.
baseball.
Rugby.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is what Dalen is here for.
Yeah, just to
To
reel it back
Yeah.
in. Stop, we did the same thing. Oh,
Yours
no.
was more sassy.
Yeah. So there we can unpack a lot from a service dog
Yeah.
and to people, but the number one question that we get, and as the owner, Courtney, is the cost. And Rose kind of touched on it a little bit. What is the going rate for a legit service dog for us?
Our price, I want to say, is 12.
It's starting, I think, at 12.
At 12. And generally that's going to give you
12,000, not 1,200.
Yeah, $12.
12,000. Yeah, or
No, yeah, just 12.
Just move the
Don't
decimal
need a
point over.
This is our dynamic.
Yes.
All the time.
It's okay.
We've maybe had 2 serious conversations.
And it's personal, not
like
business.
A couple minutes.
Yeah.
And just,
And
there's
then
like
it
brief
right
stages
into
of,
this. So our service dogs start at 12,000.
Mhm.
Now that sounds like a substantial investment. It is,
Mhm.
but also it's not one of those where 12 grand, pay up now and then we can start the no. It's one of those, we'll walk alongside of you. Like I said, it takes at minimum a year for this. And we can help fundraise, all that stuff. So it's not, hey, you have to pay me 12 grand just to even speak to me.
Now, if you have
No.
just 12 grand laying around and you want to serve, that's completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's saying, we can put up kind of like GoFundMe's, but I found a different option. But here's the thing: we are not going to do that for you.
Yeah.
You have to facilitate it. We can get one going, like we can set it up and share it with you if that's what you would like. But we're not going to be responsible for doing that, because at the end of the day, your dog is not the only dog we're taking care of.
Yeah.
Between board and trained dogs, daycare dogs, training dogs, private training, there's just not enough time to dedicate. Now, absolutely, we will dedicate time when it's your time with your dog. Absolutely, don't hear that. But we need you to know that you have to do a lot of that grunt work, because at the end of the day, you're paying us, we're not paying you for this dog.
Yeah.
So,
And just to kind of put it in perspective, Rose has been an employee with us since March. Or she started interning with us since March. And since that time frame, we have about 160 clients come in.
Yeah.
And that little amount of time. Like, I don't have enough hours in the day to sit here and chase you around and all that stuff. So you have to do your homework, and that's part of it as well.
A
Is
service
I
dog,
need,
yeah.
I need to know that you're willing to get your hands dirty and get in the muck with us.
you can't do the small things. We can't trust you to do the big things. And a service dog is a huge thing, especially for us. That's why we don't just accept everybody. We don't appease everybody.
You've done what, 3?
Maybe, yeah. And we've had a few that just, honestly, that we said, we'll send you the application, and they're like, nope,
Yeah.
never heard from them again. And then there's some that have said, well, so-and-so's helped me do it, but the training's been, they didn't really do the training right. And so that's an immediate red flag for us.
Yeah, if you come
Oh,
to
yeah.
me and say that so-and-so
Has done training
has
before.
done,
yeah.
has trained your service dog and you need more, then that's
That's not a service dog. And I'm gonna be the blunt one of, that's not a service dog.
Yeah.
And honestly, we'll take that knowledge of just being like, okay.
The other thing about that is, and I don't necessarily know if you guys we never really talked about this, but for me personally, if I train a service dog for somebody, that maintenance is for life on that dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime you need to come back, and so when somebody comes to me and they tell me this person messed up training their service dog and they need something else, No, because if you're dealing with
why
somebody
haven't you
serious,
gone back?
yeah, why haven't you gone back to them? And at that point, it really sucks.
Mhm.
But if you have a dog that's like a year old
Mhm.
and you're telling me that it's messed up,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry, but that also disqualifies it from being a service dog for
Yeah.
me. There should be no fixing the dog that
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're working with service dogs. You
Yeah.
have to build it from the ground up, or else you're not going to have a reliable
And
one.
that's why we really like getting a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: if you choose a puppy and you tell us you have a puppy in mind, what are you looking for?
So I want to see. So I wish we would have got it on video.
Oh, the
when
puppy
we,
testing with
when
Freya?
we tested Freya.
Yeah.
Like so the client came to us wanting a service dog. He went through all of it, passed every little background that we threw at him.
Cool
and
dude.
love him to death. Like
He's a rock star.
he is one of our big. He's got stands alone canine stickers all over his truck just because he's so stinking grateful and all that stuff. Because we've given him the opportunity to get his life back.
Mm-hmm.
But like we threw noises at her, we threw food at, like, we wanted to see what motivates her, what gets her. So he's like, hey, I really want a female. Cool. We got in contact with this breeder. We went and tested all the females in this litter, and we there's two, and then Freya ended up being a freaking rock star.
I say, yeah, there's
It's that
more.
bravery. She
Yeah.
went up to she went up to the things that were unknown to her.
Yeah.
That's number one. Is you have to have a dog that's got that bravery, that is curious and wants to investigate and doesn't necessarily back down. Isn't like too overconfident,
Confident, yeah.
because then you have a whole different set of
Yeah.
issues. But I remember Freya, her nose was just on the ground all the time, and
Yeah.
she
and
was
like,
just like, oh hi, and then
we-
she'd go up and she just
like we had these little chickens that some dogs are like just freaked out about.
And
We
she
had
went-
this wibble wobble ball.
Yeah.
It makes this like cow noise when it rolls. Like we open umbrellas, we kind of hold her back and choose between a toy or food, and then people and food, and there's so much that goes into it. And if they don't pass everything, it's not a no, but if they pass everything, like Freya is the standard. Like she's a freaking rock star.
Yeah, because we took her
Um,
to, I think it was Home Depot, Lowe's, and there was the talking Santa.
Yeah.
And she was not a fan of it, but when Courtney said, walked, and she followed. It
Yeah.
wasn't like dragging her. She wasn't confident about it. By the end of it, she's like, okay, and then walked off.
Yeah.
So,
So I don't want like a timid dog. I don't want a dog that's overly aggressive. I want a quiet, cocky dog. Like, and if you don't know what that means, it means I want cockiness, but I don't want a smug cockiness. I don't need the.
there's a fine line of difference of, I know what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
look at me, look what I am doing.
Yeah, I don't need a
And-
peacock.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
I also need a dog with some elasticity. That's like one of my favorite
Yeah.
traits in a service dog is, yeah, they might get scared or they might come across something they don't like, but how well can they bounce back from that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
that's a big
goes
thing.
back to the biggest thing, especially with a puppy, and we'll talk about more because I have a lot of ideas for a podcast now that we're all together and life's just kind of flowing a little bit better. Is socialization is a huge key for a service dog.
Yeah.
And if you are not willing to put in that work when the dog, even if the dog is with you or we have the dog and train it, because there's a couple different ways that we can do it. But most likely we'll train the dog up and things like that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that. I mean, I'm leaning more towards we're not even gonna do that other way. It's just we're gonna train the dog. We'll bring it, and get some yard time with you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for most of it, the dog's staying with us. We're gonna work, because here's the thing. I'm a professional. I do this for a living. If you are working, then that takes time out of that opportunity to work the dog. So yeah, I don't even think we're gonna do that other option anymore.
And there's just some things that we have to learn as well.
Yeah, and situations like Warren's different because Warren doesn't have any kind of, he doesn't have anything better to do than to just work with the dog.
Yeah.
And it shows. I mean,
It
she's a
100%
rock star.
shows.
Yeah.
But that is a serious exception to the rule,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. I mean, I just can't, no.
Yeah.
And not to say that a self-trained. So, how I got into dog training was a self-trained service dog. If I'd known then what I know now, the dog wouldn't have been even close. 'Cause-
Yeah.
But I was so focused on the dog that it took away all the other issues. So, I think there needs to be a little bit more regulation, and we can talk about that later. I think that hey, if if you self-train a service dog, you should be able to go to a dog trainer and have them stamp off on it.
Yeah.
But a legitimate dog trainer, not not some guy that got that.
Yeah,
works
and we
at a
can talk
chain
about
store.
that as like what to look for in a dog trainer, because
That yes.
there's just, we might not be your cup of tea. You might want somebody else, but if that fails, you've got us to rely back on.
Yeah.
And I think our next
And we have a
podcast.
pretty broad spectrum.
Yeah.
between
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 those two, if they can't figure it out, Dalen kind of helps, and we
Yeah.
brainstorm together about how to get past this issue. But yeah, service dogs in general are something we are very passionate about. We don't do it a lot, but it's because the ones that have reached out to us, and future ones, they have to go through a process. And
And it's not. I mean, we probably get twice a week. Somebody's, I want a service dog. Okay.
And we hate
Tell me
it.
about it.
I know we hate it, but like we've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And like we want to hear you, but at the same time, it's
especially if we're seeing your dog, or you're telling us over the phone your dog has all these issues and it's like 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
There are maybe some exceptions, but usually not. So it's a very fine line, and just know that we take it very seriously. Of, hey, if you're really serious, you have to go and do all of our processing and stuff.
Yep.
So okay, so our last question is, for anybody that's listening / watching, if you were to tell them one thing about service dogs, no matter what you want to tell them, what would you want them to know about service dogs?
Educating yourself could be the biggest thing. If you are a person, you need to. Anybody that gets a service dog, that needs a service dog, needs to know the ADA service dog section like the back of their hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, education is huge in that aspect.
Okay.
And if you have questions about it, and here's one of those things, like if you have questions about ADA, and I mean it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's like
terms.
a half a page. If
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
not rocket
it's
surgery.
vague on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're more than willing to kind of educate you on that.
Mhm.
We won't even charge you for it, like because that is our goal. Is we want to see
Number one is education.
education.
Mhm.
Like, we don't want ignorant people out here wandering around. Because Lord knows there's already enough.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm trying to minimize that. So, my number one thing is don't ruin it for people that need it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's my number one thing, and I will say that until I turn blue in the face. But the fact of the matter is, a service dog is a genuine medical tool
Mhm.
that can be life-saving to
Yeah.
some people, to a lot of people. And when you don't respect that, and you try to take the shortcut of, I just want to take my dog with me everywhere.
Yep.
Like, I relate to wanting to be able to take your dog everywhere, but at the same time,
There's reasons why.
there's reasons why you can't.
Yep.
And the more people that don't respect that fine line, the worse it gets for people with service dogs.
Yep.
And that's not fair to them.
Yep.
And it's not fair to the people that put in the real, genuine work
Mhm.
to get this result.
And I don't remember where I heard this from, but one lady told me that she did have a legit service dog, and another dog, I believe it was another service dog, came up and attacked it,
Yeah.
and it disqualified that dog
Yeah.
for.
And just think, if there were regulations to say, and I'm not saying that you have to go to, no, I'm saying go to a reputable dog trainer, and maybe there can be some legislation down the line of, hey, as a dog trainer, if somebody brings you a self-trained service dog, you're only allowed to charge them $30 or whatever. Like something, I mean, but there needs to be some sort of regulation, because that lady's dog was ruined because some selfish moron
Yeah.
is out here with a crappy dog that's attacking other dogs.
Mhm.
And that brings me to another point. If you are doing a self-trained service dog, guess what that makes you? A dog trainer.
Yeah.
You can't be a normal human
Mhm.
and train a service dog. It is your job to become a dog trainer.
Right.
You are training that dog.
Yeah.
So educating yourself, going to people like me and Courtney, and actually learning it is
Because
essential. You're no longer a citizen, you are a dog trainer.
And I have no problem taking people to go on certain training aspects.
Mhm.
I mean, if you want to come right along with me, I mean, obviously don't just show up and like, hey, I'm going with you today. No.
Hey.
Like, let me know.
Not today, Sharon.
Yeah, let me know that, hey, I would like to shadow you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, again,
Totally
my
fine
goal,
with that.
if I become a millionaire doing this, awesome. If not, I'm my own boss. I hang out with dogs all day, and I want to educate people.
Yeah.
Like that's my 3 biggest things right there.
Yeah.
We are in this business to make it better for doggos.
Yeah.
And that's what I think helps us stand apart is our main goal always, and I feel like we had a mission. The flies are out. We had a mission going in of just keeping dogs out of the pound, which is still true. But I feel our biggest mission is to educate people or educate dog owners.
Yeah.
Because later today, Corny's going with one of our daycare clients because she asked because they're adopting a puppy and they want to make sure their other puppy is okay with it, and that looks like something of Corny coming alongside them, educating them on some body behavior, body language, what to look out for, how to help the dog, and that in my mind just puts her a step up because she reached out to us asking for this help. So he's going to go later today. So
and
that
I'm driving an hour out of my way, and I'm not charging her a dime.
Yeah, because it's something smart as a dog owner. She knows her dog's past and knows that we want to make sure this is a good fit before we do this. And same with the service dog of we want to make sure it's a good fit for you. So if we go through this process with you, know that we are taking our time, our resources, and everything else to help you, but you have to put in that help. You have to do your job. And like mentioned before, in just training in general, you have to put in that homework. It's not something we'll train the dog and then the dog's just going to know what to do. That is something that we'll talk about because that angers us so much as dog people.
That's the biggest thing.
Of just the dog doesn't know what to do. So, any other closing remarks on this? Cash is displeased with the situation.
Playing with Link.
Who
I
knows?
heard him growling.
But anything else?
And again, like back to the whole thing of we're dog trainers. We're dog people.
Mm-hmm.
We don't take our dogs everywhere we go.
Nope.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Yeah, because we don't.
Yeah.
So why do you think you're special that you get to?
That obviously if you take your dog out, that places that welcomes dogs, that's completely different. That is completely different. But if I were you, I would make sure my dog